All right, my name is Jack, and I'm going to be talking about if synthetics are a fad or a breakthrough for finance. That was the name of the session that I attended today. I'm an undergraduate senior at DU. And this guy was kind of talking about his company that he created, and it is a decentralized finance company called Cake DeFi. Basically, essentially what it is they take kind of a copycat version of stocks and then put it on blockchain. It's based off of the real price. It just has a D in front of it, and I think that symbolizes DeFi. So for example, it could be D Tesla, D Google, D whatever stock. And basically you pay, I think, double the amount of the price, and that gets factored into kind of the algorithm. There's a whole system for how it works. I'm not going to go into detail on that, mostly because I don't know, but I also learned a few things just from talking or listening to him. And how he started was kind of how Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3 all evolved. And Web 1, he kind of uses the example of AOL was sort of the beginning of that. It was really kind of like a user-based thing, and you had to pay a lot of times to access it. And then that transferred to Web 2, which is Facebook. Basically, you are the product. Your data is sold and made money off of, and it's all free. It's open to everyone, and that's where we are today. And that's Web 2. And then Web 3 is a little different because it's more of a creator space. It's a decentralized network, so it's not open to everyone, or it is open to everyone, and it's not from one central place like Microsoft or some big company. It's kind of dispersed in several different places, each by server nodes that it's kind of scattered across everywhere. And he kind of focused on how it's a lot of creating. You pretty much own what you make, and you have ownership of what you what you create and what the transactions that you do, etc. Pretty much anything. So he says I think there's a key involved with it, and you get a key, and that kind of gives you control over whatever your transaction was. So basically no one else can tamper with that, and that kind of makes it a lot more secure. He said the thing that his company does, and that also that DeFi does, is just there's a lot more user control. It's more of a trust-based software, and there's less bureaucracy involved. He kind of showed the levels of Web 1 as having pretty high bureaucracy, but lower trust-based, and then more bureaucracy for Web 2, but not quite as much as Web 3. So another thing he was talking about was tokens and the decentralized issuing of them, the decentralized backing of them, and then decentralized pricing of them. Each of them is their own component, but issuing is on a decentralized platform is much better because it's not controlled by one entity, and it's like the the user can make their own kind of transactions in his model. The only difference is the pricing, I think, is the one part that becomes tricky and that can be not as secure. But that's true of all the other systems of payment. There are no dividends for tokens, so that's a drawback, but it's also a good thing because the way it works is more secure. And he also mentioned something about an oracle, which that part I actually am not too familiar with. But another benefit is that you can connect the whole world with this technology that was not available to them at all times. And not everyone can afford bank cards and a bank account, and have the luxuries that we have in third world countries of having control over our own finances in that way. But with this platform of blockchain, it kind of gives everyone a chance to collaborate, and it can cut out the middleman. So a producer in Africa that is selling coffee beans, for example, can have direct access with the person that they're selling, or the end consumer, and the end consumer can decide who they want to interact with and what money goes where. If they wanted to tip someone, in traditional models, like if you went to Starbucks, you could only tip the barista at Starbucks, but you couldn't actually send money directly to the person. So it sort of cuts out the middleman, and it makes there's no extended processes that go through banks and all that, and all these different patterns of approval, and less fraud, etc. It's just a much better system.